So many wonderful games to choose from. There's Luigi's Mansion 3, there's the new Paper Mario, Crash is always a delight, Ace Attorney is more retrospective material, and what's this? So finally, we're at the title screen. I think I just edited out like 20, 30 seconds of loads, maybe more. For some reason, the Switch version just loves to take its sweet time with the loads, good lord. But anyways, welcome to the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, a remake of the 3 Spyro games that were originally exclusive to the original PlayStation, but Toys for Bob, as well as 1 or 2 other developers that I don't really feel like bringing up at this point, have bothered to remake these games, and yeah, we have save slots, so that's pretty cool. You can delete the saves too, which I may as well do here. I actually sampled this a little bit before I started this because I wanted to see how the Switch version of these games held up. And from the little I've played of the first game, it seems to be okay, but I think it runs a little bit slower than the PS4 version that I usually play. Mostly because I associate Crash and Spyro with PlayStation, so unless it's exclusive to another console, like a Nintendo console, I usually will want it on PlayStation, but with something like the Spyro and the Crash remakes, I think owning them on both is very good, especially if you can get them on sale, which they do tend to go on sale somewhat frequently, so that's pretty cool. We got Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. It was known as Gateway to Glimmer in Europe, and I think in Japan it was like Spyro and Sparks Tondemo Tours or some weird name like that. And Spyro Year of the Dragon actually never came out in Japan, which I find to be very interesting. I wonder if the Reignited Trilogy was released in Japan. But without further ado, for today, we're going to be focusing on the first Spyro, because Spyro games are longer than average compared to Crash games. The first Spyro is about on par with the third Crash game, and Spyro 2 is a couple hours longer than 1, and Spyro Year of the Dragon is a couple of hours longer than Spyro 2. So I do want to do all 3 of these games here, much like what I'm doing with the Crash trilogy, but I'm going to be focusing on Spyro 1, and this is going to be a fun time for all of us, I'm sure. So without further ado, let's dive right into it.
Okay, rolling.
It's been peaceful here in the 5 worlds, or is it 6? For a dragon's age, we now have 12,000 treasure, or is it 14,000?
What about this Ganasty Ganok character? Now, I understand he's found a magic spell to turn gems into warriors for his cause.
I'll take that question. Nasty Nork is a simple creature.
Simple?
He has been contained in a remote world and is no threat to the Dragon Kingdom.
No threat?
Besides, he is ugly.
Ugly? That does it!
Huh? Looks like I've got some things to do.
Well, this this takes me back a ways right here. Wow. Man, I remember booting up Spyro for the first time back in '98, and this was a treat. And they even kept his little animation where he looks behind you. That's so cool. But anyway, let's rescue the first dragon. Why don't we? Nestor. The only dragon you can't skip.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the artisan world, then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Find dragons first. That's all I can tell you.
Simple and to the point. But yeah, the main goal of Spyro is to rescue the dragons, but we're going to need to find other stuff too. These little things right here look shiny. I think we'll collect those. Alright, so charge with the Y button, I think. B button to jump, just like in the Crash trilogy. that's going to take some getting used to. So, when they brought these games over to the Switch, they tried to replicate the PlayStation controller setup with X being jumped and all that stuff. Oh yeah, you get a skill point for that now. That's another thing for the Reignited. They added skill points to the first game because the other two games have always had skill points. But now the first game has them. They retroactively put them in there. I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to get them all. I'll get the ones that I remember. But being that I'm more used to this game not having skill points, don't be surprised if I forget some. Also, unlike Crash, I believe for Spyro 1, at least I am going for 100%. Because I do want to show off the level and the ending. You actually get something pretty significant for your trouble, and I don't think it adds that much more time here to do 100% versus 80%, because a lot of the requirements you'll have to do to progress in the game are actually pretty close to what you can obtain at the max. So I think at least for Spyro 1, at least for this game right here, I think I will go out of my way to go for 100%. I will make an exception to the rule here, and I'm sure most people won't complain about that. Let's go ahead and rescue... Wait a minute. Oh yeah! They also added the treasure finder that was in Spyro 2. Ooh, you had to unlock it in Spyro 3. But by holding down on the left stick, which thankfully is universal, you'll have Sparks, the dragonfly, point to treasure. It looks like that bunch of bushes over there is worth investigating, but yeah, let's rescue this dragon real quick.
Where's Nasty Nork? I'll torch him!
Keep your horns on, Spyro! You have much to learn first. Do you know what the dragonfly following you is doing? His name is Sparks, and he's helping and protecting you. Keep an eye on him, and see what I mean.
I love all the added animations they put for the dragons here. In the original, there wasn't an animation where the dragon was holding Sparks in his hand like that, so... You know, you're going like 3 PlayStations ahead, and you're able to take advantage of the hardware and do so much more interesting stuff. By the way, if you jump on all those platforms, you unlock a fancy secret level, which I don't feel like doing right now. We're going to investigate these bushes over here. Also, this guy kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm going to knock him over, get a blue gem. My favorite color, don't you know? And yeah, blue gems are worth 5. Red are worth 1, I believe. Yeah, and green ones are worth 2. I don't think this is the only game where gems are worth that much, actually. I don't know. Yeah, some cool stuff here. There was an enemy in a chest, which is harmless, but it gives you an extra life. Yes, this game uses the life system. This game was released in '98, so having a life system was still the thing to do. Apparently, there's a portal that takes us to a place called Dark Hollow. And you know what? Why don't we investigate that real quick? So another thing that they changed in the remake is the load screens are actually interactive. You can move Spyro around with the control stick, flame with the flame button, and if you press the X button, or whatever the equivalent is, I'm sorry, remember I am playing on Switch for now, you can have Spyro flap his wings, you can move him around, it's really nice. It's a shame that all these loads are like half a minute long or so. So I think besides this one, I'm probably going to edit out or cut down most of the other ones if I'm not talking over them, just to save some time. I already had to cut out a lot of time from all the lows loading this game up. And wow, Dark Hollow has never looked better. Look at that frog, man. Look at the animations all around here. So Dark Hollow didn't have all that much to it in the original game, but now they added some stuff to make it seem more like a library, and I think that's actually really cool that they did that. So, yeah, it's still pretty dark, but it's not too dark. It's not like the kind of dark level that's unbearably dark. There's illumination all around with the lights and everything. There's this guy you can flame from behind and it kills him, but you can't hit him from the front because he's wearing metal armor. So, oh god. I don't know what happened there. I think I killed him. Much like with the Crash trilogy, sometimes the hit detection on the enemies can be a little weird. Not that it was perfect in the PS1 days, but still, you gotta keep on your toes. on your dragon toes, don't you know? Dragon toes, dragon toes. Okay, I'm just gonna rescue this dragon.
Psst. Spyro, wanna know a secret? Use the action button when you want to zoom in and look around.
Oh, your secret's safe with me.
I like that dragon's hat. I know this is kind of random to say, but I'm just gonna say it. I like that dragon's hat. There's also this key. I like that key. You should probably get that key. I don't know. It's like this is a collectathon game or something. Oh, a collectathon. Oh, have mercy on my soul. I mean, collectathons can be fun when they're not, you know, overblown like certain collectathon platformers on the Nintendo 64 made by a certain developer who definitely went overboard after they made one type of game. And, well, while those games are still fun, they can be a lot to digest. This is, for sure, a fact that I have observed through many repeat playthroughs of those said games. Those games in Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong 64. Yeah, I mean, I would have had to name drop them eventually, right? Alright, so, what I was talking about earlier, something about the combat system, it's like, okay, if an enemy is wearing metal armor, you'll want to charge them, like this. But if the enemy is large and imposing, like the enemy I defeated here, you might want to flame them. I don't know. It seems like because large enemies have more to them, maybe they're easier to overheat. I don't know. As for enemies wearing a metal armor, I think that's obvious. But anyway, let's see what this guy has to say.
Oh, it's you. I wasn't sure if you'd escape those annoying little creatures. Of course they wouldn't bother me, but here's a hint. Their metal armor is fireproof, but a charge attack will take care of them.
I know, I just said this, but yeah, during this first world, the Artisans, a lot of the dragons will be giving you mostly tutorial information, but since this is a Let's Play, I, as the commentator, can also give out this kind of information, so some of the dialogue from the dragons will come off as being a little repetitive for some of you, I'm sure, but don't worry, by the time we get to the second world and onward, things will get a lot more interesting in terms of the dialogue department. Although I do find that some of the dialogue in the first world is still fun and everything, it's just, it gets better. I think there's a skill point for lighting all the campfires here, but I cannot be sure. I mean, I could check, but I could also not check because you don't need to get the skill points for 100% in Spyro 1. I don't even think you really need to get them in any of the Spyro games for 100%. I'm pretty sure they're just completely and utterly extra to do. Like, you're not gonna get an extra ending. You get, like, an epilogue. Well, not even that. You get, like, pictures. And you get pictures in the Reignited Trilogy as well. So, it all comes full circle now, doesn't it? But, yeah. So, those two campfires there. I don't know. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check out of curiosity. Is there a skill point in Dark Hollow? No, there's not. Well, that answers my curious question. So, yeah. Anyway, blame the bad guy. I accidentally charged him. Forgive me, because I'm playing on a Switch controller. I would not have made that error on PS4, I am sure. Interesting thing about PS4, though, when you're playing it with a DualShock 4, every time Sparks gets hit, like he did earlier, the color on the controller, like the light on the controller, will actually change. And I think that's interesting. I believe this is the last dragon we gotta rescue here in Dark Hollow, so let's see what he has to say. Darius.
Big enemies like this Nork with the club cannot be charged, but a quick flame, that should defeat them.
So this is the level that tells you about the whole metal armor must be charged and large enemies must be flame situation. But thing is, Dark Hollow isn't really the first level, like in the listing. It's implied that there's a level called Stone Hill that's actually the proper first level. But I don't know, I think Dark Hollow works better since it's so much smaller. And we're probably going to be doing Stone Hill next, so you can compare and contrast yourself as the viewer. At any rate, let's return home, and I'm going to try and cut out the damn load screen. So I just flew back in from Dark Hollow, and my wings are not really all that tired. That actually wasn't that bad of a load screen. I don't think it was half a minute. I think it was like 15, 20 seconds, which is still kind of long, but believe me, it could be oh so much worse. I wonder what this path will lead to over here. We got a treasure chest. We got another treasure chest. There's a lot of treasure chests in this game. I think you'll come to notice that as we progress over here. So, this is the balloonist. This is the guy that will take you to the next world. What's interesting about the remake, though, is...
if you prove your worth by rescuing 10 dragons, then you may use this balloon to fly to a new world.
They actually have voice acting this time around. They didn't have voice acting in the original game, which is a nice touch, I'm not gonna lie. And it's not something that I think really hampers anything at all. So, you know. Actually, I did say that Stone Hill is probably the next level we're gonna do, but there's actually this little path all the way over here. This little nook and cranny. I kind of want to investigate this for a little bit. We got some gems over here. We got all this stuff. And again, you do have the treasure finder with Sparks, so that is really handy dandy, but we also got a dragon to rescue. Let's see what he has to say.
Cool flash. Do that again.
The artisan's boss is through a portal behind me. You can challenge him now, if you feel you are ready.
Hey, I'd like me a slice of some of that watermelon he was eating on, I'll tell you that much. But, yeah, after completing one level, like Dark Hollow, you unlock the portal to the boss, which... I mean, normally, I probably would save the boss for the end of the world, but here's the thing about bosses in the original Spyro. They're not really all that bossy. So you know what? We're just gonna dive right into it and get toasty. Boy, I just flew in from the artisans and, okay, that joke is gonna get old if I do that every single time I cut past a load screen. But anyways, welcome to Toasty. Make sure you get nice and toasty here. Because these attack dogs, I swear to God, they are just as difficult now as they've always been. So, here's the thing with the doggies, with the doggos. You flame them, most likely, I don't think you can charge them, and I'm not going to try. You flame them, and then you have to flame them again, because for some reason they take 2 hits. I don't know how they're even slightly fireproof with all that fur they have. I'm sure it's very flammable. Have you ever tried to burn a dog? I don't know. I would think that they'd be done in after 1 if they're a particularly hairy breed. But I could be mistaken. I don't know. I mean, I love dogs, but I wouldn't say I'm a dog expert, per se. But this is also a pretty good time to mention this little rolling technique Spyro has that was in the original game, was cut out in the PS1 versions of the sequels, but it's retroactively added back in for the sequels, so that's pretty cool. I'll probably go into more detail about why that is as we get to the sequels, but for now, I'm just pointing that out because it is a valid move to avoid the dog attacks. Sometimes, not always. They still kind of home in on you, but the best thing to do is flame and flame again. Flame them on the ground and then jump and flame as they're trying to jump on top of you. That works out a lot better than trying to roll out of the way. So, I mean, the roll is interesting, but it usually doesn't really work out all that well. And if there's a level that might make you lose a life, this is a good candidate, let me tell you. This is a pretty hard level. And it's not because of the boss. The boss is actually one of the easiest parts of the level. Again, if you can even call it a boss. But hey, get used to those attack dogs, because they're going to be a pretty huge focus in the boss fight. And we'll see the sheep herders again real soon, I promise. Hey, but here's a dragon here. Maybe he can give us some advice about the boss. And...
Nasty Nork has put one of his most devious henchmen in charge of the artisan world.
Bring him on. I think I smell a barbecue.
Be careful, Spyro. Toasty has many tricks up his sleeve.
A bit vague, but hey, at least you know that Toasty over there has many tricks up his sleeve. Oh, he's a scary-looking, scarecrow-looking guy, isn't he? Well, why don't we just dive right into the arena here and we deal with his attack dog. And then, you see, he's not really moving very much. We charge in and we flame him, and, oh, What was that sticking out of his body there? That was interesting. Uh-oh. Now we've got 2 attack dogs. Oh, no. Oh, man. That's not easy, but it's definitely could have been more difficult. Oh, look. It's a sheep on stilts. Oh, snap. Epic twist of the century. But, yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, this is where it gets tough because sometimes the dogs can group up on you. If you get close to Toasty, the sheep, sometimes he can kick you with the stilts, but I think I've only seen that happen one or two times, and I've replayed this game countless times over the years, so take that for what you will. But yeah, 100% level complete. Was there a skill point here? I don't think there was. No skill point here either, so don't worry about all of that. But yeah, that's a boss level, everybody. That's an example of a boss level in the original Spyro. Does it get better? Well, we'll have to wait until the next world. For now, let's just get back into the swing of things with regular levels as we head back to the Artisans now. So yeah, we finished off one regular level and the boss level, and we really need to restock with lamb chops over here because down to green sparks is a little too risky for me. Oh, and look, Stone Hill is right over here. Let's kill some Norks though, because I think I missed some gems over here. These Norks. You're trying to lead me over here, Nork. I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm not ready to go down that path. We're just gonna get these gems over here. Woozaboo. And we're finally gonna go to Stone Hill, which apparently is supposed to be the first level that people do. Apparently it was designed as such, but I do feel like Dark Hollow works just as well, if not better, as the first level. But either level as a first level is valid, don't feel bad. Any level is a valid first level, except the boss level, which is why it's gated off. So without further ado, we go on to the Stony Lonesome. Man, I gotta say, the backgrounds on some of these load screens coming into the levels is just so beautiful. Sometimes I don't even mind having to sit here for like 15 to 20 seconds looking at them while all that stuff happens. But yeah, welcome to Stone Hill. This level is a good bit bigger than Dark Hollow, and there's definitely a lot more to it. So it's gonna take a little bit longer to get everything, most likely. But it's a pretty simple level otherwise. There's not really much else to say. Dark Hollow talked about enemies a lot. Probably because there's probably more enemies, or at least just as many in Dark Hollow, but there's plenty of enemies to kill in Stone Hill, but because it's a larger level, it does come off as a bit more pacifist. It's a lot more calm and peaceful. But enough about that, let's see what this guy has to say.
When you free a dragon or step on one of their platforms, you're saving your progress. That could be useful if you run into trouble. Not that you ever run into trouble, Spyro.
No, of course not. Yeah, I remember him being one of my favorite dragon designs in the original game. Of course, he was mostly just a recolor, but with blue skin. But for 7-year-old me, whose favorite color is blue, I don't know, that was enough back then. Now with the updated design, I still kind of dig that dragon, Lindar, over there. The dragon down this well I thought was the funniest one, though, in the original because of who voiced them and how they voiced the dragon, but, I mean, it is what it is there. Man, I was worried about that goat over there for a minute there. Bad news if I somehow got hit by one of the goats in this level, because they're pretty simple enemies for the most part. But yeah, you'll notice there really aren't that many enemies. It's mostly goats and the sheep herders that we saw in Toasty. Or I guess it would be the other way around, since it's assumed he'll do Stone Hill before Toasty, but semantics, I understand. That's the pretty cool thing about Spyro 1, is that it's fairly non-linear in terms of the order of the levels you can do. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to go from world to world, but as far as the order of the levels, you can pretty much do them in any order you want. Heck, I think if you have enough stuff collected, you could probably skip a level or two. And who knows, there might be a level or two later in the game that some people may actually want to skip. I'll be sure to talk about those levels when they become relevant. But for now, let's get some gliding advice from this dragon over here.
Spyro, my friend, how about a hint on gliding?
You bet.
For the longest glide, press the jump button at the top of your jump, and try pressing the action button to drop down mid-flight.
So I really like the redesign for this dragon too. The world is called the Artisans, which is a play on artists. So a lot of the dragons here will be focusing on that type of aspect. Now for a primer on gliding, since you really didn't have to do too much of that at this point, maybe a little bit in Dark Hollow, but now you really need to get your bearings on some gliding. So here's the deal. In the original Spyro, you don't have a hover. The hover, which you may or may not have heard about, was added in the sequels. They keep true to this here in Reignited, so you glide, and you can push the button to drop down. In the later games, you'll hover, which gives you a little bit more distance, which is nice. But they didn't want... It would break the level design if you could hover in the original Spyro, so they had to make the compromise there, similar to the compromises that the developers had to make with the Crash games, particularly the original Crash, compared to the later Crash games. So, you know, that sort of thing. There is a new thing, a new feature, or something like that, where if Spyro gets close to an edge while gliding in any of the Spyro games now in the remakes, he may do a slight boost at the end to get you over the ledge if you're close enough. It's pretty hit or miss when this actually happens, I find, but it sure does come in handy during those difficult glides. By the way, that was an egg thief. There's quite a few of them. I don't remember exactly how many. I want to say 16, I think, off the top of my head. But yeah, there's some egg thieves. You gotta defeat them to get the eggs back. You do need 10 eggs in order to reach the end of the game. You don't need every single one. For a time, I thought you did, but no. You just need 10 out of 16 to get to the end of the game, which is more than half. So at that point, you're like, well, I may as well get all of them, right? Kind of like how in Banjo-Kazooie, I believe, you need basically every Jiggy to get, like, to the end of the game and to get the super special power-up that makes the final boss fight more tolerable. By that point, I think you're only missing a couple of the collectibles. So, I mean, yeah, at that point, you're just like, I may as well get those last couple collectibles, right? And it's understandable logic. I agree with that logic 100%, believe me. And I'm pretty sure it's not just OCD or whatever. It's just, if it's something that's not particularly taxing to do, why not do it, you know? Especially if it doesn't add that much time, per se. So, we're at the exit port already, but interestingly enough, there's actually stuff to explore down here. But yeah, this is the kind of game where if you're a young kid and you got nothing better to do when you're home from school, or during that special period in your childhood where you're maybe like 3 or 4 years old, you're not quite old enough to go to school yet, but you're young enough to where you're at that period where you're not in diapers anymore, and you're not really a baby or anything like that, but you're not in school yet, so you have a lot more free time on your hands. This kind of game is really the best thing out there. And, yeah, even now in today's climate, it could kind of be that way too. But enough depression talk. Let's talk about this guy.
After you've freed all the dragons, pass through this fancy vortex thingamajigger. It'll take you back to the artisan home. But first, let me tell you a story.
No thanks. See ya!
You gotta love how they keep all the attention for detail with Spyro's responses to some of these dragons. Oh man, the dialogue was actually something I really liked in the original game. Not when I first played it, but as I replayed it as I got older and gained an appreciation for that sort of humor, it really grew on me. I mean, hey, if there's a game that I can say I grew up with, literally, in every literal sense, the original Spyro, and really the other two Spyro games in general, those are some good examples. where playing them as a kid was definitely a different experience for me than playing them now as an adult. It's just as good of an experience, honestly. In some ways, maybe even better. But at any rate, this was the dragon I liked a lot in the original. Let's see if they maintain that hilarity here.
Watch the dragonfly, Spyro. His color indicates his power. When he eats butterflies, he stays strong. Like me.
Sure.
You know what? I think they did a pretty good job of keeping the spirit of the original dialogue there. Spyro ain't falling for none of that stuff. You can just tell that. Alright, so there's still 7 gems to collect. Thankfully, we have the fancy smashy Sparks treasure detector. That probably is trademarked, so I would be careful if I were you. But yeah, the fancy smashy treasure finder. Boy, does this come in handy. And usually when I'm missing gems in this level, it seems to always be on the outer reaches. I don't know why this is. It always seems to be on the outer edges. What's with the outer edges and being edges like this? I don't know. So found those gems. Come on, Sparks. You gotta come and clutch over here. Gotta find 2 green gems, I think. Or 1 green and 2 red. No, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Wasn't there a skill point, though? I think there's like a flower or something I can flame around here somewhere. Around one of these edges. I think I'll try and look around for that for a little bit before I leave the level. Like I said, I'm not promising that I'm going to go for all the skill points, but like I said earlier, if you can do it, and it's not particularly taxing, why not do it, right? I just don't remember where exactly the thing was. I don't remember if it was a flower or if it was something else. Oh, I think this is it. Yep, that's a skill point. Alright, that wasn't very hard. So you can go to the portal, but you can also pause the game and exit the level the normal way. You only have to do the portal thing once to unlock Toasty. So other than that, feel free to do it. Be fine with it. So, see you when we get back. Whew, I already said I wasn't going to spam that joke to oblivion. So we pretty much finished all of the main levels except for one here. There's also that Sunny Flight level unlocked. Actually, I need to go see if it's still unlocked. Okay, thankfully it is. I don't know. I don't remember if this was the case in the original game, but I could swear that if you did the puzzle to unlock the level and you didn't go on the level right away, you'd have to redo the puzzle. I'm glad I don't have to redo such a difficult and complicated puzzle. There's no sarcasm there, I swear. Okay. But yeah, we come over here, it's the last few gems for the main hub world of Artisans. I think. Maybe there's still a few more. I don't know. Well, hey, if there is, we got our fancy schmancy Sparks the Dragonfly treasure detector. Now in limited quantities. And by that I mean there's only like 3 Sparkses that work like this. I don't remember if Sparks work like that in the infamous Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. And for sure, I don't think he was a treasure finder in the less infamous Spyro Hero's Tale, but I don't know. It's been a minute since I touched those games. I don't even know if I want to touch them again. But enough about talking about bad Spyro games. Let's examine this guy. Tomas.
Hey, Spyro! Press the jump button twice to glide. And don't be afraid.
Afraid? Of what?
Falling from high mountain peaks? Plummeting into prehistoric glaciers?
Oh, that.
Yeah, just one of those details. I like that guy's ukulele. I almost wanted to steal it, but this isn't Grand Theft Auto. This is Spyro the Dragon. Could you imagine Grand Theft Auto X Spyro the Dragon? I'm sure that's got some people's imagination stirring up like I don't know what. And that's fine. It's fine to have a wild imagination. Just as long as you're not going through a wild flight of fancy on me. Ho ho! But now we go to Town Square. A fitting final level for the Artisans, I feel. Which is why I usually do this one last. Since this was designed as the last regular level of the Artisans, you'll find that this is probably the most difficult of the 3 between Dark Hollow, Stone Hill, and Town Square. Not so much because of the enemies or anything like that, although they can be a little tricky if you're not careful. It's more so the stuff you gotta do to get everything in this level. But, you know, oh, look at this. I see a dragon here, I see a dragon there. There's also a bull. But it makes you wonder if the bull is full of bull. A bull, a bull, a bull. And we're just gonna rescue this dragon.
Welcome to Town Square, Spyro. Begin exploring by gliding to that area with the bulls. Use the right stick to get a good look.
And let me tell you, the right stick for camera control is a godsend. In the original Spyro, you had to use some of the shoulder buttons for the camera control, which is why they had, like, the roll, but you had, like, L2 and R2, which used to be the camera control, but now L2 centers the camera, and R2 is a second flame button, which, now I'm starting to think about it, that might actually work better on Switch. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I just remembered there's a skill point where you have to charge all of the bulls and make them... when you charge them, their horns will get stuck in the ground, right? And they'll be stuck there. And they won't even despawn right away. But yeah, there's a skill point for doing all that. I messed it up, and I'm not gonna respawn the level just to do it. But I'll go ahead and mention it for those of you watching to go ahead and do it yourself. Maybe you forgot to do it, now you got a chance to do it.
Thanks, Spyro. I had the worst itch on the tip of my wing. Did you know that you get your longest glides by pressing the jump button at the very top of your jump?
Seems kind of like common sense, don't you think? I mean, maybe not. I mean, for me at this point, it's common sense, but I don't know. Something like that may not come naturally to some people. But anyways, before people start making a comment about something, yes, some people who make food can consider that an art form, especially if you're working with pastries and cakes and whatnot. It's a very good outlet for being artistic and creative, even if most likely that piece of art may not last forever because someone will get hungry, inevitably, and want to consume said art piece. But that's totally fine, right? I mean, food is meant to be consumed. Same with anything else, really. Art can be consumed as well, just not through the mouth. Consumed through the eyes and the mind, as it were. Man, that was really deep and thought-provoking. I might have to sit on that while we rescue this guy.
Spyro, did you see a man dressed in blue running around here? He's a thief, and he's stolen a dragon egg. You've got to track him down and get that egg. Run, run! I'm getting a little winded.
I love the attention to detail that they kept that in with the whole getting winded part. There's also food stuck to his tail, so I guess there's a theme here where a lot of the dragons are chefs of some sort. We had a pastry chef, and now we look like a traditional chef there with the vegetables and whatnot. You add vegetables to some foods, and it somehow makes them taste better. I don't know what to tell you. It's just sometimes it happens. And this is a tricky glide right here, especially with the reignited, because the physics are a little bit different than what they were back in the day on the PS1, so it can be an adjustment sometimes. Oh, I did a charge to give myself a little boost, and that helped. Usually that doesn't really do much, with charging first, I mean, but I guess that time it turned out to be just what I needed to get that last boost I needed to glide. And that egg thief over there is particularly annoying because eventually he'll get to the end and he'll kind of like drop down, I think. I think he's going to be down here somewhere. Or he might have despawned, I don't know. But he doesn't really loop around like the egg thief in Stone Hill, so kind of annoying. I might have to do a jump cut for that guy, unfortunately. But for now, let's just worry about getting all the gems and the dragons, which are a little more important right now than the eggs. The eggs aren't going to be relevant for a couple more worlds at least. So, you know, why even stress about it? Oh, that bull almost got me. Oh, check this out. You can ride on these things. Alright, flame it, and then ride on top of it. Isn't this the coolest thing ever? I'm pretty sure you couldn't do this in the original game. Reignited exclusive. Reignited and it feels so good.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. You can always check your progress by accessing the guidebook through the pause menu.
I think that dragon is meant to be another sculptor like the first one we rescued, but in the original game, all he said was thank you for releasing me, and there were a lot of those. Here in Reignited, a couple of them have gotten extra bits of dialogue. Very much appreciated, Toys for Bob. They're the guys working on Crash 4, by the way, so maybe you ought to show them some appreciation and look into that Crash 4 if you got 60 bucks laying around. But anyways, I'm going to jump cut a little bit ahead here to get to the thief. I will see you back in a minute. And we're back. I'm going to try and get this egg thief before it's too late, but man, this guy is pretty fast. I'm not going to lie. Oh, I knocked him out as he jumped. Whew, that was a close call, let me tell you. So yeah, there's again a reminder, there is a skill point, I'm going to show it off right here, for all bulls stuck. They probably could have been a little bit more descriptive than that, but oh well. Now we can just head back to the artisans and be done with this. Alright, well, I believe that takes care of just about everything here in the artisans, so I think it's time we go revisit that balloonist and look into maybe reaching the next set of levels. Why don't we? Knock out these Norks real quick, and this Nork, well, not really. They kind of dodged out of the way at the last second there. Good on them. There's the balloonist. Here's the wise guy I wanted to talk to.
Wow, I see you've been busy rescuing dragons, Spyro. You may travel to the Peacekeeper's world if you like. Are you ready to go?
Are you ready, kids? Well, this has been fun, everybody. It's been lively here. Hope you've had a good time watching this. Next time around, we're going to the Peacekeepers. Until then, do try to keep the peace in the comments section. Alright? We don't need a civil war.